Hello and welcome to this week's episode of The Bark. I'm Allie White.
And I'm Nixon Blackman. Today we'll be covering Elite Eight recaps as well as some predictions for the Final Four games. We send it out over now to Ryan Eggert.
I'm outside Lucas Oil Stadium in downtown Indianapolis, where the Midwest region's top 4 seeds battled last weekend to secure their spot in the Final Four. Let's take a look back at the action and see how those 4 teams found their way to Central Indiana. The region's top 4 seeds, Houston, Tennessee, Kentucky, and Purdue, all qualified for the Sweet 16, the first time a region's top 4 seeds made it this far in 3 years. Starting with top-seeded Houston, the Cougars made light work of the Ohio Valley champions SIUE. The Big 12 regular season and tournament champions found themselves up by 28 at the break, cruising to a 78-40 win. Milos Uzan led Houston with 16 points, LJ Cryer had 15, and Javier Francis had 13 points and 8 rebounds off the bench. In the second round, Houston faced much stiffer competition. The West Coast Conference tournament champion Gonzaga Bulldogs had made 9 straight Sweet 16s, and they weren't about to let Houston end that streak. LJ Cryer, the Cougars' points leader, matched his season and career high of 30 points, knocking down 6 of Houston's 8 makes from behind the arc in the process. However, Gonzaga clawed their way back into the game at the very end. Down 11 with 4.5 minutes to go, Gonzaga cut the deficit to 1 point with 21 seconds left. The Bulldogs couldn't get any closer though, as a missed 3 by Khalif Battle and 2 free throws by Milos Uzan sealed the Spokane school's fate. Houston survived 81-76 and moved on to its 6th consecutive Sweet 16, the now longest active streak in the nation. The Cougars now face the Purdue Boilermakers. Purdue had a little less nervy path to Lucas Oil Stadium, taking down double-digit seeds High Point 75-63 and McNeese State 76-62 in rather comfortable fashion. The first ever meeting between the two schools had its ups and downs. The Cougars and Boilermakers traded buckets in the first half, and after 20 minutes, the West Lafayette school was ahead by 2 at 31-29. Houston would start the second half on an 11-1 run, with 7 of those points coming from Emmanuel Sharp. The Cougars ran up their advantage to 10 points with 8 minutes to go, but the Boilermakers would not go away, answering with a 9-1 run to bring the game to 57-55 with 4:17 to go. LJ Cryer answered with a 3 to get the Cougars to a 60-55 lead, but Wayzata, Minnesota's Camden Heide knotted the score at 60 with 33.7 seconds left. The game ended in dramatic fashion as Houston converted an inbounds pass with 2.8 seconds to go into a game-winning layup. Let's take a look at this final play. First, LJ Cryer sets a screen at the free throw line for Emmanuel Sharp. Joseph Tugler then sets another screen at the free throw line for Cryer to get open, diverting the attention of Braden Smith. Milos Uzan inbounds the ball to Tugler, and he gives it right back to Uzan for the open basket just before Purdue's CJ Cox can swat it away. Braden Smith's half-court heave was unsuccessful, and Houston advanced to the Elite Eight by a score of 62-60. Houston head coach Kelvin Sampson shared his thoughts on Milos Uzan after the game.
Yeah, he's come so far. He broke his nose, had surgery in October, early November. But his growth has mirrored our growth. As he's gotten better, we've gotten better. So really proud of that young man, as I am this entire team.
Unbelievable game. We'll see you tomorrow.
Okay.
It's already Saturday.
Okay.
The Cougars' opponent in the Elite Eight was the Tennessee Volunteers, making their 2nd straight Elite Eight appearance. To start the tournament, Tennessee's regional games were held at Rupp Arena in Lexington, Kentucky, home of the Kentucky Wildcats and only 3 hours away from their home of Knoxville, Tennessee. It was an interesting selection considering the teams cannot play in their own arenas during the tournament. The Volunteers proceeded to make quick work of the Southern Conference champion Wofford Terriers, winning by a comfortable 77-62 margin. Chaz Lanier showed up and showed out, swamping Wofford with 29 points, which included 6 outside makes and 11 of 22 shooting from the field. Star guard Zakai Ziegler dished out 12 assists as well, elevating the Long Island natives' assists per game tally into the top 5 nationally. In the second round, Lanier showed out again, leading the team with 20 points and going 4 for 5 from three-point land in a game that saw the Volunteers shoot 11 of 22 from distance. Ziegler added 15 points and 6 assists as Tennessee defeated the 7th-seeded UCLA Bruins 67-58. In the Sweet 16, Tennessee matched up with third-seeded Kentucky, who defeated Sun Belt champion Troy 76-57 and Illinois 84-75 in Milwaukee. The Rupp Arena's success seemed to rub off on the Volunteers as they took a 15-point advantage into halftime, leading by as many as 19 late in the first half. Zakai Ziegler led the team with 18 points and 10 assists for his 5th double-double of the season, while Chaz Lanier recorded 17 points. The most important performance, though, had to be Felix Okpara. The native of Lagos, Nigeria, grabbed 7 offensive rebounds, matching Kentucky's total in that category and contributing to Tennessee's 19 second chance points in the 78-65 victory over the Wildcats. In the regional final, the offensive success dried up very quickly for Tennessee, only scoring 15 points in the first half. In that first half, the Volunteers shot 6 of 28 from the field, missing their first 14 three-point attempts. The only outside make of the first half came from Zakai Ziegler with just under 40 seconds left. It was the fewest points for a team in the first half of an Elite 8 game since 1981, and the least amount of points by a 1 or 2 seed in a first half since seeding began in 1979. On the flip side, Houston never trailed in this game and led by as many as 22 late in the first half. LJ Cryer had 17 points, and Emmanuel Sharp knocked down 4 trays to lead the Cougars to a 69-50 victory and a Midwest Regional Championship. With the win, Houston advances to its 7th Final Four in program history, and head coach Kelvin Sampson makes his 3rd such appearance. He took Houston to the Final Four at this very venue 4 years ago, falling to eventual champions Baylor 78-59. He also took Oklahoma to the Final Four in 2002, losing 73-64 to an Indiana team led by 2000 Indiana Mr. Basketball Jared Jeffries. The Hoosiers would eventually lose to Maryland in the national championship 62-54. The Cougars will now take on the East Regional champion Duke Blue Devils in search of their first national championship appearance since the days of Phi Slamma Jamma, led by now Hall of Famers Hakeem Olajuwon and Clyde Drexler. The Space City School will look to avenge its 1983 buzzer-beating loss to legendary coach Jimmy V's North Carolina State Wolfpack.
You can see the time. Wittenberg. Oh, it's a long ways. They won it. On the dunk.
And its 1984 runner-up finish to John Thompson's Georgetown Hoyas, led by Hall of Famer Patrick Ewing. Tip-off between Duke and Houston is set for Saturday night, April 5th at 8:49 p.m. Eastern from the Alamo Dome in San Antonio, Texas. You can catch the game on CBS. Reporting for Butler 360 Sports, I'm Ryan Eggert. Back to you guys.
Thank you, Ryan, for that Midwest recap. Later in the show, we will show you more about Houston's Final Four matchup.
Next up is the East Region with Matthew Hoffman reporting.
In the first 2 rounds, Duke took down their opponents by 20 or more points. The first battle was against Arizona in the Sweet 16. After beating Oregon, the Wildcats looked to continue their run as the number 4 seed. Arizona was able to keep it close, but with Cooper Flagg scoring 30 points and Duke's defense showing up, Arizona's chance at an upset was over. Duke's Elite 8 game was the most anticipated after Alabama's senior guard Mark Sears was lights out, putting up 34 points and shooting 62% from 3. After winning the opening tip, Cooper Flagg was able to start things off after knocking down an open 3 for the Devils. Cooper Flagg isn't the only freshman star on this team as Con Knippel drives to the paint for 2. Knippel goes right back at it, spinning around Bama's defense and putting up a shot that's rebounded by Duke's freshman center Kaman Maluach, passing it back out to Knippel for 3. Sears finishes the first half for Bama with a nice little assist to the big man down low to cut the lead to 9 at half. As the game went on, both teams' offenses kept up with each other, but after this dunk by Kaman Maluach, Duke proved why they were the best. With 1 minute left, Knippel found Proctor to push the lead to 20. Duke wins this one 85-65, stunning Alabama to move on to the Final Four.
Thank you so much for the East Region recap, Matthew.
Now looking at the West Regional Championship, where the Florida Gators took on the Texas Tech Red Raiders in a high-powered 1 versus 3 seed matchup. Two All-Americans, Walter Clayton Jr. of Florida and J.T. Toppin of Texas Tech, looked to carry their respective team into the Final Four. It was back and forth early as Texas Tech had multiple leads in the first half behind their stellar defense, but Florida came back late and took the lead going into the half 40-37. After another close half and turning into a great game, Florida ended the game on an 18-4 run behind Walter Clayton Jr.'s back-to-back ridiculous threes, ultimately pushing the Gators onward to the Final Four, where they will face a familiar SEC opponent and number 1 overall seed, the Auburn Tigers, for a chance to get back to the national championship for the first time since 2008. Next, we can hear from Florida head coach Todd Golden after their win.
First Final Four for Florida in over a decade. Why was this the group?
They've done it all year. Been incredibly resilient. They say the course, never too high, too low. We're down 9 going that last media. We just had to dig in, get some stops. Tommy Wall made some big-time shots, got some stops down the stretch. It's what we've done all year. We found a way to win these games.
Do Tommy and Walter know the game is hard? It doesn't look like it.
I think they do, but they work at it, and they do a great job playing off their teammates, making everybody better. They stepped up down the stretch, though.
As their coach said, a great win from Florida off the back of Walter Clayton.
Next, we'll be going to Ellen Schneider with the South region.
Bruce Pearl and the Auburn Tigers are going to the Final Four. In the Elite Eight, they played the Spartans, and Broome makes a jumper from his teammate Bazar. Broome would then make a three-pointer to give the Tigers a 15-point lead. Jahad Pettifor would make a layup for the Tigers. With good ball movement, the teammates find Broome and makes a big-time dunk. The Tigers are up by 10, but a scary moment happens in the second half that puts Auburn questioning, will Broome return? Would get a big cheer once he returned from the locker room. Miles Kelly would find Johnny Broome for a three-pointer. Denver Jones would make a layup and put the Spartans away, and Auburn advances to the Final Four to face off against the Florida Gators.
And I think the 4 teams that are advanced, I think they're the 4 best teams in the country. That doesn't obviously always happen. So, Johni Broome stepped up again. Just keep doubting him and keep thinking that he's not going to be able to get to another gear.
Thank you so much, Ellen. After some great Elite Eight recaps, let's take a look at what we have coming up with the Final Four. Let's look at Auburn versus Florida first. For the first game of the 2025 Final Four, we have number 1 seed Auburn facing off against number 1 seed Florida. Let's take a look at each team's road to the Final Four. To kick off March Madness, the Auburn Tigers faced 16 seed Alabama State in the round of 64. There were no upsets here as the Tigers dominated the Hornets throughout the game's entirety. Knocking off Alabama State, Auburn walked away 20 points up with a final score of 83-63. Moving on to the round of 32, Auburn played against a force in the Big East, the Creighton Blue Jays. Even though Creighton had the lead of 37-35 at the half, it was not enough. The Tigers clawed their way back, no pun intended, and finished the job. The final score was 82-70. Next up on the Auburn Tigers' path of destruction is none other than the Michigan Wolverines. This was another close game at the half, but the Tigers ran away with the win. Although Michigan's forward Daniel Wolf scored 20 points, that didn't matter much considering the fact that Auburn had 3 players score 20 points or more. The final score was 78-65. For the Elite Eight, Auburn had to play against yet another Michigan team, the number 2 seed Michigan State Spartans. This was a close game and many people thought that the Spartans could defeat the Tigers, but Johnny Broome with 25 points and 14 rebounds was not going to let that happen. Broome is going to be a player the Florida Gators will have to keep an eye on. Auburn won by just 6 points with a final score of 70-64. As for Florida's road to the Final Four, their first opponent was Norfolk State. Norfolk State simply could not compete with the Gators. The Gators were already up by 21 points at the half. Despite the Spartans' best attempt to overcome the Tigers in the second half, Auburn won by 26 points with a final score of 95-69. For the round of 32, Florida faced UConn. This was a great game as both teams were hungry for the win. Florida's Walter Clayton Jr. and UConn's Liam McNeely were the top scorers of the game with 22 and 23 points. The teams were tied 31-31 at the half, but the Gators were able to walk away with a close 77-75 win. Florida's opponent for the Sweet 16 was none other than the Maryland Terrapins. Even though Maryland's center Derek Queen racked up 27 points, it was not enough considering that 6 of Florida's players scored double-digit points. This was a close game through the first half, but ultimately Florida won 87-71. As for the Elite Eight, the Florida Gators tipped off against the Texas Tech Red Raiders. This was a game for the books considering the Gators had to climb their way out of a 14-point hole. In a matter of 4 minutes, they tied the game 75-75 with roughly a minute and a half left of game time. Florida ended up securing the win 84-79. Auburn and Florida will tip off on April 5th at 6:09 p.m. in San Antonio. Only time will tell which team is booking flights home or extending their hotel stay. These teams are clearly familiar with each other considering they're both in the SEC conference, so it will be interesting to see how they do in this matchup. What are your thoughts, Nixon?
I'm a big fan of both Johni Broome and Walter Clayton Jr. They're both fantastic players, and these are both fantastic teams. They're number 1 seeds for a reason, and it's very hard to go against a number 1 overall seed, but I want the Gators.
Well said, well said. It's hard to not root against your own team.
To round out our Final Four, we have the Houston Cougars facing off against the Duke Blue Devils. This Final Four has all 4 of the number 1 seeds, something that has only been done twice in tournament history and hasn't been completed since 2008. Both the Duke Blue Devils and Houston Cougars have been making impressive runs here in the tournament. Houston has won their last 17 games straight and shows no signs of stopping. Their defense has been unstoppable, holding all their tournament opponents, apart from Gonzaga, to 60 points or less. Meanwhile, Duke is known for their high-powered offense. Duke has not lost a game this year where they have scored more than 72 points. They are 32-0 in those games. The game will be a battle of defense versus offense to see who can secure their spot in that championship game. Which player do you think will have the biggest difference in this upcoming game?
I honestly think Cooper Flagg will kind of be the number 1 person to keep an eye on for sure, averaging 19 points per game, so definitely need to have a lockdown defender on him.
Yeah, Cooper Flagg is very tough to stop. Few have been able to do it so far this year, although I think Houston might have the man to do it. I think the player that's going to have the biggest impact in this game is going to be J'Wan Roberts. He is a senior leader for the Houston Cougars. He embodies their heart and soul. He is a big rebounder on the team, and most importantly, he might have to play some defense on Cooper Flagg, so we'll see how he can do.
Totally. As much as I agree with you, I really have my money on Cooper Flagg. What do you think is going to be the biggest key for either team to pull this one off?
I think it's relatively obvious for a lot of people. I think it's going to be wing defense on Duke. Both Con Knipple and Cooper Flagg have been scoring in loads, even combining for 57 in their Sweet 16 matchup. They're a powerful duo, and Houston's going to have to play some really good defense against them.
Totally. I couldn't agree with you more. What are your predictions for the rest of the tournament? Who do you like moving on and winning the whole thing?
I'm a big Duke guy. I'm partial to their stars on that team, and I'm also a big fan of Florida. Florida's going to have a tough matchup against Auburn, but I think Florida and Duke playing the championship, and I think the Blue Devils are going to bring it home this year.
Totally. I mean, personally, I think Auburn will win against the Gators, and then I think Duke will come out on top for the other game, but ultimately I do believe that Auburn will come out on top. Thank you so much for watching this episode of The Bark. I'm Allie White.
I'm Nixon Blackman. Have a good day.